Good morning, everybody. Thanks, everybody who was part of the annual dinner last night. It was a wonderful affair. Everybody worked so hard. Very great. So the way we're going to do this, I think, is I'm going to talk for a few minutes. Some point we'll see whether you have any particular themes you'd like us to talk about, and then Chozen will fill everything in. So maybe we'll start off. Any particular themes? We're Dharma teachers, we can talk all day, so. Okay. So Buddhism is about liberation. It's about recognizing the freedom that is inherent within us. And in Buddhism, we say there are three human observations that anybody can make, and we all have made them. First is, everybody's got challenges, difficulties, obstacles, all the things of the human life. Everybody encounters that. Whether you're here for the first time or you're here for the 80th time or the 180th time, everybody's got challenges. Just an observation. Not good, not bad, just an observation. The second point is that everything changes. Our minds change, our situations change. You're not wearing the same clothes you were wearing last year. The places that you go change, the things that you do just change. Just an observation. We say it's a principle of Buddhism, but it's a principle of life. So everybody has challenges. Everybody can be aware of change. The third one is also a direct observation, but it's a little trickier. And that is that if we look inside right now, you look inside and say, who is thinking? Who is sitting here? You can't find anybody. Who is thinking the thoughts that I have? You know you've got thoughts. You know you're sitting here, but what is thinking? So that particular is a conundrum, because we are so sure that there is a who. And so then the conversation goes, well, who is thinking? I don't know. Who is suffering? I don't know. But I want to know. But there is no self. But I want to know. There is no self. Well, how do I realize there is no self? There is no self. The self, what we think of as ourself, is just change, just flow. Flowing of thoughts, flowing of situations, flowing of emotions, flowing of people. It's just flow. There is no thing in us that does not flow. And yet we have the impression that there's a thing, there's a me that can understand this. And when I understand this, when I understand Dharma, when I am enlightened, when I see into things, then there'll be liberation, then I'll have freedom, then I'll be able to function. But there is no thing. There is no one. And the only evidence that we have that there's someone is our thoughts. Or else we have a sensation in our body and we say, oh, that's mine, which is a thought. So part of Dharma practice is looking at the nature of reality, impermanent, fluid, got challenges, nothing's personal, and then functioning with a warm heart, engaging and being the best person you can be wherever you are. That's the whole of Dharma.
But as the Buddha said, just because this old monk said it, don't believe it. You have to test it for yourself. Each of us has to test it for ourselves. And as a person who is scientifically trained, as those of you who were at the Sangha event last night know, I like proof. Proof that something is true. Not just somebody saying it over and over and over again to try to convince us that it's true, which is
True that Bancho is ephemeral last night.
yeah, and gender is a concept which is also fluid. So our practice helps us simplify so that we can actually see what's going on. But here's an experiment. So close your eyes, please. An interesting experiment. Close your eyes and be aware of what you see behind your eyelids. So if a few people would just volunteer, what do you see when your eyes are closed? Anybody?
There's an after image of what I was looking at when my eyes were.
Okay, so a kind of negative after image of what you looked at when your eyes were closed. How long does that last?
I can still see it right now.
Okay, well, let's keep checking, and when it disappears, you just say, oh, it disappeared. Or it's changed, and tell us what it's changed into. Okay, anybody else? What do you see when your eyes are closed?
Darkness with blue lights.
Darkness with blue lights. And are those lights like small, twinkly, or small and twinkly? And only blue or any other color?
Oh, well, you said that, and so promptly some of them turned white.
Okay, so white and blue. Anybody else? Do you see anything different behind your eyes, anybody?
Diffuse layering, much like a sedimentary rock, but very out of focus and changing. Yes, it moves a little bit.
Okay. A sedimentary rock, which is out of focus and changing. This is great. I love this. Anybody else? What do you see when your eyes are closed?
Static.
Static. What does that mean? What is you actually seeing?
Lots of tiny white dots and blue and red dots, like an old TV screen.
Okay. Like when the old TV screens used to go into fuzz. Static. Mm-hmm. So you said it's what color? White, blue, and
Red.
and red. Okay. Is there anybody who doesn't see any color? Does everybody see red? Raise your hand if you see red. Okay, raise your hand if you see blue. Raise your hand if you see white. Raise your hand if you see white and black dots dancing like static. Okay. Raise your hand if you see shapes. Okay, so what we realize is that even when we close our eyes, everybody's experience is different. Isn't that amazing? That very simple thing, close your eyes, and I assumed, until I discovered this by asking people, that everybody's experience was like my experience. Like my experience is the truth, right? And everybody has that same experience. But people have very, very different experiences when they close their eyes. So it's a miracle we can communicate with each other about our lives. But this is exactly, to me, what Zen practice is about, is asking a simple question like that, and then examining directly, experimenting directly. Like, okay, so try this. Close your eyes gently, and now squeeze your eyes shut. Does the experience change? Or not? Yes. So how many people found that the experience of what you saw behind your eyes changed when you squeezed them shut? Yeah, so the majority of people. So isn't that interesting? So just that tiny muscular movement changes our whole experience. So again, it's a miracle we can communicate with each other about the complexity of living a human life. It's a miracle we can agree on anything and relate to each other, right? Because we have to realize that this person we think we're relating to both ourselves and another person. It's a mystery. Hogan says this all the time. It's a mystery. And if we can hold that mystery and enjoy it, our life changes completely.
Any comments, insights, advice, opinions, reactions, reflections? This is a request, not a question. Yeah, Ginsei.
Noticing that when I do look for who is here, that there is actually someone here. But it's
Excuse me, who's the microphone person? Anshin, would you do the microphone? So again, say for the people online, would you start again?
working with the question of who am I, who is actually right here, who's asking the question, and as I ask the question, it's like who I thought I was, I don't know anymore, but there is still a real sense that there is someone here. But the more I try to define it and figure out who that is, it kind of gets kind of fuzzy. But yet there is still very clearly someone here.
But by the someone, there's fuzz. You said that. There's
Well,
fuzz
it
there.
feels like I like the word the mystery. It's like the mystery is very real and experienceable, but I don't know if I can go beyond it just being a mystery.
Okay, great. Maybe that's as far as it needs to go. Fuzzy mystery.
Is that distressing or interesting or joyful, or what's your reaction to that?
The distressing part is like letting go of who I thought I was, because I like to hold on and know and have that comfortingness. Entering the mystery is like jumping off of a cliff into I don't know what it is, but it's also very liberating and freeing. It's like I'm not holding on anymore, so it's it's more free. Feels more like being myself actually.
If anyone tries to talk you out of saying you're not sitting there because there's just fuzz, you're not sitting there, I think that's a little off.
But this is the paradox of what we discover in Zen practice, that it's the tension of opposites. It's the two opposite things are true simultaneously. And living with that actually there isn't a person here. There are just sensations, and actually those sensations are electrical impulses in what we call our brain, right? And that everybody's experience of life is different. So there's that. There's the mystery of what holds the fuzz together. Like, what is the glue that holds all those sensations together, and then we say, that's me. And then we have opinions, and then we fight with each other and fight with ourselves and so on. But then there's the functioning of, there's the Gensei who knows a lot about carpentry, and so we say, could you build us something? And you do. The body somehow, mind, this complex, does something very, very helpful. So both of those, the emptiness part, which is what you were talking about earlier, the emptiness and the little dots, whether they're the little dots in our visual field or the little dots of sensation in what we call my body, there's that, which is very freeing, although alarming, and often when people approach that, the edge where they're going to go over into the dots, they back off. Yeah. And the mind, is afraid of it. Because what the mind knows is what we've had before, what was normal and maybe painful, but, not so painful we should give it up. Yeah. But when we actually go over the cliff, and it's quite an interesting experience. But then we have to hold the two together so that we can function in life, right? Yeah. And when the functioning gets too tight and painful and stressful, then we can go over to the other side. Yeah. I often say it's like walking. With your 2 feet, but one foot is like whatever size shoe you have on, and the other foot is enormous. And so it's like, right?
Thanks for giving us that theme. I'll think of you as Mr. Fuzzy Wuzzy, Are there? Yeah?
I live on the river in Skepos, and so I sit and watch the river a lot. And the ripples are like fingerprints of moments. They're always different, always unique, but they can be similar. And the color of the river is always subtly different and changing from moment to moment, but not quickly. It's something that in 15 minutes the colors are all going to be different, but you don't notice them changing. And then, like, if a bird flies over, sometimes you can see the bird, and you can see the reflection of the bird, and you can see under that the shadow of the bird, and they're all aligned vertically, and they swoop and move so quickly. And it's kind of like there's something that seems really very real, and then there's reflections and there's shadows. And then just sitting, you were talking about seeing static behind the eyes. Like, even when my eyes are open, I can kind of see like a veil of static, which kind of reminds me that it's all kind of perception. And but perception won't do my dishes, and shadows won't brush my teeth, and there's kind of a reality in the practical, but it's not all that real. I don't know if that makes sense.
So holding those two together, washing the dishes, but appreciating the scintillation of experience is joyful.
It is.
Yeah. It's not a chore anymore.
It can be a little bit too much. When I first started meditating, I loved it, and I would sit out for hours on the river, but now it's a little bit like watching MTV. I like a quieter experience.
Yeah. So how do you dial down?
I don't sit on the river as much as I used to.
Uh-huh.
Or I won't sit on windy days when it's really calm out. I'll go and sit.
Mm.
But, I'm a little more selective about that.
Yes, so that balance between these, we're calling them two aspects of reality. They're actually, each one is multifactorial, right? But you're just adjusting the balance. And we have to keep doing that in our life. And our ability to do that gives us freedom from being stuck in one aspect.
Thank you. Royston?
In regards to the lack of self, I did a practice which I thought might be helpful, which was to look inward and try to find the center of experience. And generally we think it's somewhere behind our eyes. And the practice really bugged me. I didn't get the process and I didn't get the point. And I heard if something bothers you, it's probably some wisdom there for you. So I kept trying. All at an instant, I would turn and look in. And I noticed that the only reference point I had for myself was sensations, like my nose, kind of the pressure on my head, my ears, my mouth. There's a lot of sensation in the mouth. we wouldn't say that we are our mouth, or we are our nose, or we are just our ears. And that's the only reference point I had. And so I kept trying, and I was told to do it instantaneously, just turn inwards and look. So I'd start at my belly, and I'd look all around, and get up to my head, and all at once, I realized that there was no center, and something kind of shifted in me. And I guess that's the realization of no self, for me at least.
And what's the glue that holds it all together? Or was holding it all together before it fell apart and now glues it back together so you can function?
I don't know.
Good. Go on to investigate. What's the glue?
Thank you. I hear that you're a chef's dream in the kitchen, by the way. Thanks for...
So when I close my eyes, I see these colors. When I was a kid, I would close my eyes, and I actually still do this as an adult. And then I push on my eyes, and you can see colors. You know, see this. And it's always been like an invitation for me to kind of explore the astral, and I feel like I'm like in the universe when I'm doing it. And I know that just like as a little kid, that seems like a crazy thing. I think. I don't know. But as an adult, it's like it's an invitation to see something different. So when I'm feeling curious, then I do that at night. And so when I close my eyes, I'm like, yes, it's an invitation. So it was something I forgot that I did. And so, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and when you were a child, there was no inner critic involved in the experience, right? So you just had that experience. And then the invitation remains open all the time. Step out of what we think is this concrete reality. Step out of political turmoil, step out of war, and see what else is true.
As a medical doctor, are you doing any damage? No. Out of curiosity.
Depends on how hard you push.
Oh, that's why you wear glasses now.
Anybody else?
This is the last topic, I'm still going to say it.
Yeah, there is no topic. It's sort of in.
We're on a topic. Something about science, and I think one of the reasons why I came to practice was learning in my training in science that everything, being told that everything tends toward entropy. Like, yeah, that's like the nature of physics, and things just spread out and become more chaotic, basically. But at the same time, we have all this crazy, complex life that's super organized, and our body is this beautiful thing that works so well. Yet there's this law of entropy. And I'm like, how? So that's one of my main amazements about life, is that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's great. I love thinking about entropy. So entropy really means going from an organized state to a less organized state. Going from a state that is more coherent, more integrated, to a state that is more diffuse. So in a way that's life. Because as we start off with this little bundle of babyhood, and as we grow, we become bigger, our minds become bigger, our bodies become bigger, and it begins that we eventually start losing things. Things just, are so diffuse that we can't walk as well, that we can't think as well, that we can't see as well, things become more and more diffuse. And in a way, you could say that movement of entropy, that movement from a more ordered state to a less ordered state, is an inherent rule of life. And that movement is life. So to go from more ordered to less ordered is life itself. All life does that. To go from a source of heat to having the heat diffuse is a kind of entropy. So that's really cool if you think about that our perspective on the universe started off kind of small and narrow, and that too has entropy to it. That too spreads and diffuses and becomes ever larger. And there's nothing stable, just entropy. And then, of course, a new life starts all over, and starts all over from that little bundle of well-integrated nerves into our entropic adulthood. I think it's so cool to think about that. The other thing about entropy is all of us older adults can look back and think, oh, the world was so much easier, better, lighter, more organized or something than it is now. And it's just a function of entropy. We're looking back through the entropic movement of our minds and seeing that in an earlier state, the world was simpler. The world was less complicated, intricate. And so that looking back and feeling that there's some nostalgia, that nostalgia itself is a result of entropy. Looking at a more ordered, earlier version of us. So when people are looking at our country and they're thinking, make America great again, let's go back to the 50s, it's all in the mind because the mind was simpler. When we were young, our minds were simpler. And so that the movement back, kind of the fantasy of turning entropy back into a simpler time, is just a fantasy. It doesn't happen. Do you have other thoughts about entropy? I mean, it's the one. I'm not a mathematician, but I understand that the formula for entropy is the only formula that can't be reversed. It only goes one way. The arrow of time only goes one way. The arrow of time is moving from, ordered to less ordered.
And the Buddha said all compounded things.
And the Buddha said all compounded things will fall apart and come together again. Yeah, thanks. Entropy is associated with time, aging. It's just, it's a wonderful, wonderful investigation.
So the Buddha said that all compounded things will ultimately dissolve. But what happens to the bits of energy it dissolves into? That's also a very interesting question. What happens to those bits? They don't disappear, according to what we know of physics. Anything that's created continues. Energy, bits of energy continue, whether it's bits of your body energy, like I'm always fond of saying, how old is the calcium in your body? It goes back to right after the Big Bang, right after being 500 million years after the Big Bang. And how many bodies has it passed through? And when you die, how many more bodies will it pass through? So those bits of energy just keep getting recycled. And that includes not only your physical energy, but your mental, emotional energy. So that's one of the reasons we need to clean up, not just the environment on Earth, but our internal environment. Because if it's going to be passed on to somebody else or something else, our job in practice is clean it up as much as we can. Even a little bit of cleaning, a little less anger, a little more compassion. Long term, that makes a huge difference.
Other comments? Yep, Julian?
Is there any, what's your take on determinism, fate, and the role of karma?
Can you talk about that a little yourself? What's your experience?
It's a nice idea. have some choice around where I put my energy counts for something. But I don't know. I've heard various interpretations of it, so I'm curious about what you think.
Okay. Happy to address that unless somebody else would like to. So in the 19th century, when in the realm of science and physics was really beginning to be refined, and there was actually a thought that, okay, let's look at karma, and if we know that this causes that, and this causes this causes this, if we see the karmic stream of things, if we see the causal relationship between things, if we know enough about the causal earlier state, we should be able to predict how it's going to evolve. We should be able to predict. And so there was this feeling of in classic philosophy and in science, there was this kind of hope among some people that by understanding enough, we'd be able to also understand the future. Because we could see that the chain of karma just keeps moving. It's not the case. It's just isn't the way the world works. If you get into complexity and other interesting things with large numbers, one of the elements of life is surprise. Everybody is surprised in their life. Everybody experiences things they didn't expect to experience. Surprise is a fundamental truth as it changes. Because as a human being, we are an organized, being. We have a certain level of entropy. We have a certain level of organization. And that organization expects the world to act in certain ways in accordance with our view, and then it doesn't. And it's surprising. And sometimes it's so surprising that it's all surprise. It's all fresh, all surprising. So I think that if we think about determinism, that our karma is determined, that we are already set in stone to become a certain kind of person, I don't think there's any evidence of that. But then the question is, well, what is movement? What volition do I have? What is my ability to act? So there's several levels of answer to that. Everybody here can wave your hands. Please wave your hands. Yes? Okay. Now notice that you didn't actually do anything. The hand was waving itself. You said wave your hands, and somehow the hand starts waving. We may be able to look at the sympathetic nervous system and kind of we can now analyze it that way, but experientially, in this moment, the hand starts moving. The hand is moving. Now you think, okay, did I, Julian, move that hand? Okay, I am Hogen, I can't find any Hogen, I can't find a Julian, but the hand is still moving. It's what's it doing out there? It's still moving. It's still moving. What's moving it? So it's very interesting. If you look at that experience, the hand knows the hand is moving. Right? You don't know that there's not a recognition of movement up here in the black box. But the experience is you recognize the movement in the hand. Is that? You recognize the movement. You recognize movement where things recognize themselves, actually. So then you think, okay, well, the hand is moving, and it's moving, and I recognize it's moving out there, and I can't find anyone in here that's recognizing it, and there's movement. Well, what is it that's moving? Well, in a way, what is aware of the hand moving is the hand moving. The movement is aware of itself. The hand is aware of itself. Try it. You flap your hand around, and you see you are aware of your hand in your hand. You're aware of movement in movement. Interesting. Things, and the hand is aware of itself. Things are aware of themselves. It makes it really interesting. And then you think, okay, well, where's volition? Do I have any if things are just happening by themselves, isn't that a level of determinism? Isn't that just means that, one thing leads to the next and we can predict the outcome? But when we look at things are kind of spontaneously moving, knowing themselves, where am I? And if I just say there is no I, how do I grow in a healthy direction? How do what's the point of the precepts? How do I evolve? How do I mature? Interesting questions. Anyhow.
So, Julian, I was intrigued when you said that if everything's predetermined, and there's a religious doctrine about that too, in some religious traditions, God has everything planned for you, and everything is predetermined by God. But then there's a secular version of that too. So what intrigued me is you said you found that comforting. Why?
I don't have to worry or think about it.
You don't have any responsibility.
Microphone.
Yeah.
Microphone.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the people online, say what you just said.
Yes.
So
It's true that there's a feeling of no responsibility.
of no responsibility. Aha.
It's not my fault.
Yeah. Right.
Any responsibility for the actions that I take.
So why do you like not having responsibility?
Nothing's my fault.
Uh-huh.
Which means you can't fail.
It means I can't fail. That's very true.
Yeah, so then the inner critic has no ground, no grip,
Sure. Yeah.
right? If it's all predetermined. So see, even that comfort in, if it's predetermined, can be examined to see what the heck is going on in there. If I just drift through life and I have no say about what happens, why is that comforting? And who within, what part of us is comforted by that?
I never thought about that. Looking at it like that.
Yeah, and then what's the problem with taking responsibility? Besides the inner critic then criticizing you for whatever it doesn't like. Yeah.
But you can't succeed either,
You can't succeed, why?
because you're
Microphone.
not responsible.
Microphone. Anchin is responsible for getting that microphone.
You can't succeed either,
Yeah.
because you're not responsible.
Uh-huh.
It's just, it was all pre-planned and there's no, I'm just a robot.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So there's no failing and no succeeding.
Right.
Sounds
So all
boring
the
to
fun is
me.
gone.
It sounds very boring to me.
Horrible.
Yeah. It's kind of like sitting by the river too long, There's just releasing into the flow and just floating through your life, right? Some people do that. Drugs help you do that sometimes.
Bushin.
Yeah, I was very, yeah, I still am, but I was more goal-oriented and achiever. Like if I set my goal, I just try my best to achieve this. And by doing that, I notice I limit other possibilities. Like I really close down from all other possibilities because my mind is only fixed to this thing I need to achieve. But through my experience, I noticed, I experienced that if I don't have a goal if I don't have this fixed thing, it is more open to possibilities and what life brings to me or to my life. And I find more amazing things happen which my mind could not think of. So I really do believe that my thinking limits opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, through my experience, I really learned that expense of being, I don't want to sound like not being responsible, because I know that I tend to become very responsible, but I just don't want to mix being responsible and taking in control in my life. I guess taking in control in my life also like limits to my thinking, what I know only in my mind. But being out of control, it opens more possibility to the life, or what universe, or what life brings to you.
Yes, it's a beautiful example of the tension of opposites. It's a beautiful example of the tension of opposites, where 'cause we call them opposites, and then we feel like we have to choose one or the other. But what you've said is, I want to still be responsible, but I want all these opportunities to open up when I'm not just fixed on one goal, right? So that's holding both of those things, that we have goals that we work towards, all of us. Even if it's just, I want to stand in line to get to the bathroom because I need to go to the bathroom. Whatever it is, their goal throughout our life, throughout our day. But when we discover that when we meditate and the mind opens its clamp on reality, opens, then other possibilities emerge, just exactly as you said. And that's where creativity and opportunity truly come from.
It's not only for me. Not my meditation, or it's not something I'm doing, but I really feel like universe. I don't want to sound esoteric or woo-woo, but
No, please sound esoteric and woo-woo.
I really do believe that the universe is something great that brings you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Let Ashley respond to that. Give her the microphone.
To me, there's nothing wrong with being goal-oriented, and there's also nothing wrong with just letting go. It's a beautiful balance of things. I'm so nervous.
Don't let the excitement get. You're in charge.
I'm in charge. Anyway. I think that everyone needs to try bungee jumping in order to face that fear, to be able to jump that cliff. And so, because most of life is like falling into unknown, and the experience of falling is scary, but also it actually opens up so many things. So I guess getting used to that feeling of unknown, because the feeling of unknown, that's also being in that space between the opposites, wherein that's the scary part, like how I think. Just the space, because it's like in the middle way, right? In the tensions between opposites, it's like you don't really know, you can't really choose, because there's no choice, but there's also choice, but it's just we're not in control. And in bungee jumping or doing things that you're afraid of, it lets you get you into that space, and somehow you learn to trust yourself, and you trust the universe, and you get surprised by life.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.